The saying goes, don't mess with Texas. But what if the whole world turned into Texas for people dumb enough to commit robberies? Let's look at some of the worst moments robbers experience by picking the worst day to try their luck and get an epic comeuppance. So grab your popcorn and join us on a journey as wannabe robbers get served up a hot plate of karma. Number 1, luck runs out. At 11:50 a.m. on the 17th of April 2017, a robber entered a Latino cellular store in Houston, Texas, to get rich quickly, but little did he know what fate had in store for him next. The thief entered the store confidently and ordered the cashier to cough up the cash. Instead of complying like a good little girl, she answered with a simple no and walked out. She didn't go alone, but was followed by the rest of the employees and customers before this goddess locked the thief inside the store with all the cash in the world he wanted. This killer move would stump the most savvy of robbers, and this poor guy was no such thing. The very agitated and worried robber paced back and forth and tried to make some sense of what just happened. The tables were truly turned on the hapless chap as he made desperate attempts at freeing himself by throwing himself at the door. He tried firing at the lock with his handpiece, but no dice. In the end, he accepted his fate and surrendered himself, begging to be freed as the police arrived and arrested him. Number 2, sleepless in South Africa. Lone Hill, Santon Joburg became witness to a lone robber trying his luck with 2 men minding their own business. What he got was retribution with a capital R. The victim here had noticed this car as he rode his bike back from village church with his dog. As soon as he saw the man step out of the car, his intuition told him something was about to happen, a feeling confirmed by the handpiece he saw in the suspect's hand. Without any hesitation, this son of a handpiece pulled out his own piece and discharged it right away as the desperate criminals sped away like the devil was nipping at their heels. Number 3, baddest of them all. Now, we might not know who this guy might be, but he definitely deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame, the way he dealt with a couple of upstart robbers as they tried to rob him. Broad daylight is usually not the time when these creeps slither out of their burrows, but desperation is a cruel teacher. But on the 12th of April 2019, these 2 individuals were up to no good as they acted casually while they stalked their victim under the bright light of the sun, so nobody could have trouble identifying them. As the 2 quickly and forcefully tried to box in the driver, he proved to be quick as a fox and slippery as an eel as he jumped out the other side while the 2 robbers rattled helplessly around in his empty car. It was clear that their biggest mistake was targeting a victim who was no victim at all. Judging by the handpiece this citizen is aiming at the car with culprits, he knows how to defend himself and he doesn't hesitate to use it. But what does he do after the robbers quickly exit the car and run for their lives? He chases them on foot, determined to make them eat the karma he's serving them. Number 4, trim those thugs. Heroes come in all shapes, sizes, and professions. Take, for example, this young lawn trimmer earning his wages honestly by trimming a client's grass in broad daylight in Northwest Harris, Renmark Lane, near Cypresswood Drive on March 29th, 2024. It seems robbers also come in all shapes and mentalities, as these wise guys tried to steal his equipment from his truck, parked a few houses away. The suspects tried to run him down with their Nissan Altima as they drove past him. Not willing to bow down and accept defeat, this hero took the only option open to him as he tried to hit their getaway car's windshield with his lawn clipper. He even chased after the car on foot, but stopped when the driver waved a handpiece at him. It didn't do much damage, but it did cause one of the assailants, Jarrell Alexander, to fall out of the car. Though the hero tried to keep him on the ground for the cops, the culprit managed to get away by running and catching up with his buddies. Turned out, this was the perfect break this case needed. The injured assailant was caught at a local hospital trying to get patched up, with his buddies following him to jail eventually. Number 5, cab robbery. Who knew being a taxi driver could be so dangerous? But that's exactly what cabbie Ralph Valletta found out on March 10th, 2016, as he stared down the barrel of a handpiece that was pointed at his head. Unbeknownst to him, he had the good luck of getting stuck up by the dumbest robber of all time. The poor cabbie was sweating profusely, thinking his end had arrived, as the robber ordered him to hand over his valuables since he had none with him. Having a piece waved in his face was a scary experience, but the day was saved by the angel in blue, armed with a piece appearing at the assailant's window. You see, this wannabe robber had had the very, very bad luck of trying to rob a cabbie parked in front of a cop car. The scary episode took a hilarious turn as the robber was pulled out of the cab and handcuffed by the cop. Number 6. A bigger threat. It looks like being a robber doesn't always pay. Rather, this occupation comes with its own load of danger, as Nicholas Brown and Markil Hayes found when they tried to rob the wrong guy in Los Angeles, California on July 23, 2021. Pulling off a robbery in broad daylight requires some guts, which these guys had due to being armed. How could they have known that would mean nothing when their victim had a piece of his own and would be willing to use it without hesitation? But this video is evidence that there's no honor among thieves, as their getaway driver ditched them in a split second without hesitation and drove off into the sunset. Number 7. Evading evil. Danger can be felt even as you are sitting in an armored truck, safeguarded by tons of impenetrable steel and armed to your teeth. This raw footage of a brazen heist of an armored truck burgeoning with a cash load on a busy highway in South Africa shows that having the ultimate foolproof machinery designed to keep you safe does its job well. This driver, Leo Prinsloo, noticed a car racing up behind the truck and realized that they were in danger, which was confirmed by the shots aimed straight at his window. If it hadn't been projectile-proof, this attempt would have been successful at a very high cost to this driver's life. The driver and the guard prepared for the worst as they assembled their weapons and buckled down for the rough ride they had up ahead. The driver showed off some pretty impressive driving skills as he tried to leave the chasing robbers in his dust. The stoic expressions on their faces showed these were professionals who remained unfazed as they successfully evaded attempts by thieves trying to ram their truck and force them off the road. Number 8. Too hot to handle. This incident occurred outside a South suburban Walmart on October 5th, 2023. It was a daring attempt by a bunch of robbers high on the idea of getting rich overnight by just waving their handpieces around. It was a show of bangs that began suddenly and fizzled out in moments because the robbers had picked on an armored truck designed to withstand much heavier attacks. Their puny attack ended abruptly as the robbers realized they had no way of overcoming its steel defenses. After putting their all in an effort to force it open and raining hellfire on the truck, they finally gave up and ran off with their tails between their legs when they realized the cops were probably on the way. Once again, the driver and guard in the truck persevered in the face of extreme aggression. Number 9. Tables turned. Gas station holdups are common and swift, but this robbery failed when the victims fought back and turned the tables. This group of cousins and friends were on their way back to Broward County from South Beach. They were returning from a vacation together, having a good time when they were targeted at a gas station in Orlando Park, Florida. It was 3:45 a.m. on Sunday. The CCTV shows a masked assailant walking towards them before pointing his handpiece at the group. Not expecting revolt, the robber was surprised as he was struck by the group together. In no time, they disarmed him and tackled him to the ground. An accomplice later identified as 33-year-old Kevin Campbell joined the brawl. It was a brutal match that ended with the handpiece falling into the hands of one of the victims, who pointed it at the attackers before they fled. Number 10. Thank the Johnnies. Now, these guys didn't have to contend with an armored vehicle when they decided to rob a 7-Eleven in the 1700 block of Avalon Boulevard near Victoria Street in Carson, California on January 19, 2024. All they had to do was bully a lone cashier into handing them the entire day's earnings, which is exactly what they did after they hurried into the convenience store. The terrified cashier complied with their commands because he knew they meant business. It seemed like these guys were getting a pretty sweet deal from fate when it soured suddenly. The next thing you know, a sheriff's deputy appeared at the door. Quickly realizing the situation, he called the attempt in promptly. While the robbers made a run for it, the officer proceeded to make sure the site was cleared. Number 11, you're on your own. August 14th, 2021, dawned with a bright and sunny morning. But what happened to this man definitely must have darkened his day. A couple of opportunists targeted him near his apartment building on Westheimer at Briargrove as walked through the complex's parking lot. The robbers pulled out a handpiece on the victim and started demanding money. They also proceeded to rough him up, but instead of cowering, the man fought them off, tooth and nail, all the time screaming for help. The robbers checked his pockets for any cash and valuables and decided to split from the scene when he would not pipe down. On that day, this man was his own hero as he decided to protect himself the best way he could under the circumstances. Number 12, jewelry heist. These two young men look barely old enough to shave, but their intentions are anything but childlike. Their actions are bold and brazen, and their plan was dastardly as they sauntered into the Joyeria Marlene's jewelry store on June 27, 2014, in southeast Fresno. The clerk at the counter was helping them out in all sincerity, considering he thought they were genuine customers looking for some nice jewelry to buy. As soon as he started showing them the goods, one young man drew a handpiece. He threatened the clerk and ordered him to hand over the valuables. But the robbers hadn't planned for unforeseen circumstances, such as the owner bursting out of his office with a loaded shot piece pointed at them. The assailant's body language changed completely as he hadn't expected to be staring down the barrel of a piece. Thankful to be able to get away with their lives, the two made a beeline for the door and disappeared outside. Number 13, raise your voice. The carjacking happened around 8 a.m. on a peaceful and sleepy Friday in Oakland. The victim was totally unaware of what was about to happen as she drove southeast on Skyline Boulevard behind a white Dodge Charger. The Dodge came to an unexpected and abrupt stop, blocking the victim's path. Clearly confused, the poor woman slowed down her car, completely clueless on what was about to happen next. She was clearly agitated as two armed men burst from the Dodge and charged towards her vehicle. When one of the suspects started banging on the driver's side window, adrenaline kicked in and the victim let out a small shriek, instinctively hitting the gas. She desperately maneuvered around the obstructing car and sped away to safety. Number 14, shatterproof. These wannabe robbers picked the wrong jewelry store to rob and the wrong glass to break. The Pleasanton jewelry store seemed like easy pickings with no resistance nor a clerk in sight. But these poor guys would find out that the Pleasanton store had a pretty unpleasant surprise in store for them. As the CCTV footage shows, the robbers were great in number, and they had all the tools required to rob a jewelry store, like pickaxes and hammers, but these tools proved to be toothpicks on the glass, guarding the valuables. But looking at this display of poor planning, it seems more like the fools were too dumb to take accurate aim and carry out a glass breakage. Consider Exhibit A, as one of the assailants assigned the task of spray painting the CCTV camera recording them and failed miserably in his task. You can bet this group would have gotten caught by now, judging from these shenanigans. All the cameras recorded their useless attempts, and they had to give up and make a hasty retreat back to where they came from. Number 15, street justice. On June 12, 2012, two young men wearing masks strode into Zhen Yang's dépanneur in Gatineau, brandishing sharp objects. They were willing to go to any length to get at the cash they knew was in the till. As Zhen appeared to cooperate and reach for it, he suddenly turned and grabbed the bear spray can instead. Without missing a beat, the store owner sprayed one assailant who had made the mistake of coming too close straight in the face. Then he went in to teach this assailant a lesson in what it means for the tables to turn on one. While one suspect made off out the door like the hounds of hell were after him, the owner leaped onto this one and grabbed him. The robber then got the pummeling of his life as he lost a battle with gravity, hanging upside down by the hold Jen had on him, losing his trousers in the process. Perfect positioning for the female, who darted into the front due to all the yelling and commotion and proceeded to pound her boots onto his head. Jen was soon joined in his battle to subdue the robber by another man, and the two soon had him tied up for the cops. Number 16, short but sweet. Now this CCTV footage might be short, but the heroism shown here must take pride of place in this collection. These two thugs breezed through the doors into this gas station store with the plan of robbing the owner blind. But they certainly got played by fate, as the first person this robber made the mistake of swinging his handpiece at was actually an off-duty Marine. Without missing a beat, he swung into action, beginning with snatching the loaded piece, staring him in the face from the surprised robber's hand. Next, he proceeded to teach them a lesson that if they wanted to play with the adults, they had to grow up the hard way. Alone yet undefeated, this uncaped and unidentified hero beat two armed and grown men into submission and gift-wrapped them for the cops to arrest. Number 17, justice delayed. This incident from Ocala proves that the police are there for a reason and can foil the robbers' plans to have fun. On June 22, 2024, John Isaac Felix, 22, robbed the Marathon convenience store located at 3620 east of Silver Springs, BLAD. Now, the CCTV cameras are there for a reason too, since they record every suspect's image who is dumb enough to show it, which this one did. The police were able to identify the suspect easily with the footage and tracked him down to his location later. So when he casually walked out of the door, he was greeted by a police officer at his location. But the robber was more a hardened criminal, as he failed to heed the commands of the officer. Instead, he chose to make it harder on himself as he tried to outrun the cop chasing him. Now, nobody likes a smart aleck, much less the police, and its response was swift and hard. The assailant got chased down by another patrol car, and this time, he got zapped for not complying. Number 18, a nation of heroes. Now, this incident showed how the heroism of one man can turn ordinary people into heroes. On October 10, 2017, customers at the Valparaiso Aldi were minding their own business when they noticed a silent interaction happening between a cashier and a man at one of the tills. It was a stick-up in progress, and no one would have known about it had the ordinary citizens standing nearby decided to keep out of it. He decided to take the matter into his own hands and grabbed the robber from behind. The robber tried to break free, but his desperate attempts were useless in the face of the hero's determination. And once the customers turned against the robber and jumped him, it was game over for this fool. There was only one destination waiting for him, and that was jail. Number 19, a fool or a hero. Some of these incidents have such daring displays of heroism that the question automatically comes to mind: is this brave or foolish? The same question emerges with the actions of this cashier at this joint. The robber crashing this joint was highly confident of the lethal piece he was holding and was satisfied with the submissiveness it evoked in his victim, but he misjudged the man at the other end of his piece. The shameless robber was so certain of his effect on the man that he even tried to jump over the partition. But just when the time was right, he got the surprise of his life as the clerk latched onto his piece and refused to let go at great danger to himself. Now, this dangerous piece could go off at any moment with serious consequences, but the clerk is one daring son of a gun. In the end, his bravery and tenacity won out over the robber's desperation. Just as the robber ran off, the clerk made a fast jog for the back door. Number 20, mistaken identity. Everyone loves a hero, but what to do when faced with a case of mistaken identity by an overzealous off-duty cop? This poor chap was going about his business, making a few purchases at the gas station, when a cop pulled a piece on him and ordered him to pay the clerk for the pack of Mentos he had slipped into his pocket. The baffled customer, who had paid for all the items, was too rattled to explain himself as he stared at the piece. Meanwhile, the clerk stared at the officer in stupefaction as the officer repeated his command angrily. That's when he was assured by the clerk that the customer had paid for his legal purchase and wasn't shoplifting anything. As the alarmed customer stumbled out of the store, the jaded clerk went back to his register in peace, and it was business as usual. Now that's how heroes handle robbers, or is it better to let the cops take care of such serious business since they're trained for it? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.